Hey, it's Naftali. Thanks for joining me for the Humans Working book marathon, and the title of today's section is on management. So if you asked a lot of people, what is the job of a CEO or a manager? They might tell you, well, their job is to sort of set goals, expectations, deadlines, and then convince or persuade their staff to somehow meet those goals and expectations, right? But here's what I want to posit. What if instead, as a CEO or manager, your only job was to point people toward what's really true, to point them inside to their own genius, to allow that to grow and develop, and see what comes of that? All right? Because I think the challenge with the first option is that while sometimes the expectations of a CEO seem crazy and outrageous and all that, in fact, I think often they're shooting way too low, all right? Because it is outrageous to expect somebody to work 80, 100 hours a week. But it's not outrageous to expect somebody, given half a chance, given the ability to look inside to their own creative genius, to come up with something much better than they could have possibly come up with in 80 hours of banging their head against the wall, right? We need to start thinking about the source of infinite creativity. We need to start thinking about the genius that people have in them, what they could really do if they were actually given half a chance. But when, again, I spoke about this in another video, when we want to break everything down to like a task that we can put in a spreadsheet, and then we just want to force people to get done as many tasks as possible, yeah, sure, you need a manager and you need, carrots and sticks and all that kind of stuff to incentivize people to get all these tasks done. But you're never actually going to create something miraculous, amazing that way, And really, really visionary companies understand this, right? And that's why they do things a little bit differently. Right? So let's just take an example, right? If you view sales, for example, as you get a new salesperson and you're like, hey, here's the phone book, just start dialing from A to Z, and and then I'm going to measure you on how many people you called every day. And yeah, at some level there, you are limited by the number of people that they call, right? And if you're also incentivizing people to call as many people as they can, then probably they're going to try to get off the phone really quickly with each person so that they can call more people, right? But if you want people to sell, if that's really your goal, the outcome is to sell, well, then you should allow people to look inside, right? Allow people to connect with their heart to other people, if that's their way, right? Or allow people to connect on whatever way they can. Allow people to spend as much time as they need on the phone with somebody if they're producing the results. But you're never going to know what possible results they can produce if you don't give them half a chance, right? So again, all I'm talking about here is your job as a manager is more to point people to their own genius and allow that genius and help that genius grow, even if that genius inside, looks different than how you might do it. Because this is another thing that happens in management all the time. Like, well, I've been doing this for 30 years. That's not the way you do it, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? In 30 years, did you ever come up with something like really miraculous or genius, or did you just kind of like get your job done every day? Right? So again, the question is, do we want to really build something amazing, or do we want people to kind of like dig a ditch? And we're telling them how to dig a ditch, how many hours to spend digging the ditch, because there's a huge difference in those things, all right? The other thing that I want to say about this is that when we talk about carrots and sticks, right, do we give somebody a positive incentive or a negative incentive to get something done? You're looking in the wrong direction, right? Because the place that gives people an inspiration to do anything, right, or the place where loyalty comes from, and the place where just being committed to working on a project all weekend just because like they're burning up to do so, not because if I do it I get a bonus, or if I don't do it I get fired. That all comes from inside, right? That comes from inside somebody's heart, right? But we don't get that. We think that like, oh, if I give them a big enough incentive or big enough disincentive, then they'll do it. And yeah, maybe short term, maybe kinda. But as soon as people see that their experience is coming from inside, not from what's outside, that whole game is over. And that's what you want people to see, because that's where real inspiration is going to come from. That's what's going to make them want to work all weekend on something. That's what's going to allow them, in the shower to have a brilliant idea about, how to do something better or invent a new product, and then go sit at the computer and, bang out a little prototype in a few hours, right? That's where that comes from. I've spoken to people who said, they had their best, most company-changing ideas on an airplane. And in, 4 hours of just being able to focus on an airplane with nothing more than like a notepad and a pen, they were able to sketch out like something that really propelled their company forwards, right? So please stop thinking about just, we got to drive people towards doing more tasks, right? And point them towards what's inside, right? So with that, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers.